Welcome to the Coach and Crew Show. Get ready to take things to the next level. And now, the host of the Coach and Crew Show, the coach, Charlie Krause.
Welcome, everybody. This is Coach and Crew Show. Phil and I come to you every Monday evening at 7 o'clock. We go for about 45 minutes, and we talk to you about what happened the week that was or the weekend that was. And this was a big weekend that was. You had the NFL championship weekend with the Chiefs and the Niners advancing to Super Bowl, and you had the Royal Rumble. And those two topics alone, plus just whatever happens in the normal world of athletics, Phil and I are going to hopefully cram it all in and get some thorough content in that 45-minute time frame. As always, we do have a comment section. So if you are watching with us, thank you. If you'd like to leave a comment or ask a question, please chime in, and we'll get to it as we see them and go from there as well. All right, Phil, we'll start in the NFL world. Golly, this was a big weekend. Kansas City and San Francisco, they met the year that the Super Bowl that COVID hit from the 2019 season, the 2020 Super Bowl. So it's a rematch of that. Arguably, it's the two hottest teams in the past 7 years. San Francisco, 3 consecutive NFC championships, and this is, I think, Kansas City's 4th Super Bowl in 7 years. What's your initial takeaway from the weekend that was?
I won. That's the most important thing, is I won my future with San Francisco. Everything else doesn't matter. When we have to talk about the games, I think I called that one right. The refs made a big difference in the Baltimore-Kansas City game. We're going to talk about WWE and scripted sports later. But there can be a case made for this being scripted from the NFL's point of view. So, although that's not why Baltimore lost this game. Baltimore lost this game because Lamar Jackson played like trash. Bottom line, he was horrible.
Yes, Phil, but he can't share the full criticism. I have to interrupt you.
Okay. Well, who else gets criticism besides Lamar?
How about the offensive coordinator for calling 6 handoffs and 6 designed running plays the entire game for the team that led the league in rushing?
I agree with that. And since he came from UGA, I absolutely concur with that. And they got what they deserve.
So, yes, can Lamar
it made no sense why they didn't run the ball on Kansas City. I have no – and in the rain, it was raining, the wind was blowing.
And you're on the home team. I mean, even if you get just 2 yards of carry, it's keeping the defense honest. It's keeping Lamar upright, so that when he's scrambling around and dancing and not hitting open receivers, it would help alleviate that burden. So, listen, I'm not trying to just give – Lamar does not deserve all 100% blame. Those Coastal Carolina fans know good and well there was 2 plays where Isaiah Likely was mugged, once in the end zone and once on a 3rd down play by 3 different Kansas City defenders both times, and the referee swallowed their whistles on it, hence Phil's comments. Even if both of those held true, I still think Kansas City wins. But yeah,
Lamar, I don't. I mean, I really don't. I think if the refs would have done their job, and both of those pass interference calls are pass interference. I mean, I don't know how, when a safety's beat and he tackles Likely on, what was that, the 5-yard line, 6-yard line, that one on the 3rd down that they ended up kicking the field goal. He tackles him, he takes him down, and they don't throw a flag on that. The worst case scenario, that's holding. Worst case, it's holding.
Yep, and that would have been fine if they called defensive holding on that one.
I would have thrown the flag for pass interference. The interception, he was started Likely. Noticed the ball was horribly underthrown. Let's not take Lamar Jackson off the hook for that one completely. He threw into triple coverage and he underthrew it into triple coverage. However, his guy saw it. He was making an effort to come back for the ball, and the Chiefs defensive back took him out before the ball was picked. That's textbook pass interference. So I don't know. But you know what? I've talked to a Kansas City fan, and they feel that they're persecuted, and that neither one of those were penalties, and they were good no calls. So I guess it's just your interpretation.
Subjective interpretation.
Yep. And my interpretation is Baltimore Ravens got robbed. And the second half, the Ravens defense played exceptionally well. The first half, they did not play well at all. But the second half, they did play well.
No, I mean but they put themselves in that hole. And
they did.
And yes, it was the second half penalties that are going to be the ones that stood out. But they're the ones that, I mean, Travis Kelce was open on every pass attempt. And some of those catches he made, look, whether you're a fan of him or not, those were all Hall of Fame level catches that he made. He had 11 catches from 11 targets, averaging over 11 yards a carry, a reception, and then a touchdown. There's your AFC MVP, assuming your MVP of the championship game did not carry a whistle and wear black and white stripes.
I was going to say my MVP of that game had black and white stripes on and a black hat.
On the NFC side, that Peyton Manning commercial has been stuck in my head now for 24 hours. Epic comeback starts right here. Up 17, the Lions, I don't want to say Detroited, but man, some of the most awkward moments you have. I mean, the fourth down call, the first one originally, and
two fourth down calls.
Well,
dude.
let's get to the second one later. The fourth down call, and it's right in his hands, and he simply drops the pass. I mean, I assume that's nerves at that point. The dude, number 9, already had scored a touchdown on a reverse, so it wasn't like he's not a normal player. He was a high draft pick from this year or last year's draft. So you had that going on. You had the Georgia-Auburn Prayer and Jordan Hare bounce off the Detroit Lions face mask for 50 yards.
That was tremendous.
And then former Georgia Tech running back, former Alabama running back.
When he scores a touchdown, he's former Georgia Tech running back. When he puts the ball on the ground, he's a former Alabama running back. Let's get that right.
So Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles on the first play, and all three of those happened, less than 4 minutes apart from each other?
Yeah.
But
how many touchdowns did the dude score yesterday? And how many first downs did he get? He was all world, and he puts the ball on the carpet one time, and everybody thinks he's an idiot. So I think that's bad.
San Francisco took that, got all momentum, and didn't look back. And then the controversy, at least what it sounds like through my chatter and circles, is Dan Campbell going for it the second time around with and not kicking the 48-yard field goal, because them going for it, I could see that happening. The play call itself, I was not a fan of that. But the play call that really bothers me more than anything else, Phil, is 3rd and goal at the 1 you tried running.
Anyway, the only thing I can think of is the two guys on Dumb and Dumber, Lloyd and
Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, but yes.
Yeah. So pick which one's Jeff Daniels and which one's Jim Carrey, but all I can think of is that in Washington, Commanders want that guy as their head coach. That's leaves some bad taste in my mouth, my man. But anybody that's watched Detroit all season long, they are a first half team. I had money on San Francisco. I was not worried 1 second that San Francisco wasn't going to win that game. I made comments before halftime. As long as it's within 5 scores, San Francisco will come back and win this game, because I've seen it all season long. Detroit gets a big first half lead, and they don't know how to finish a team off. And it just goes back to, when I was coaching football, I had 3 game plans when I was doing my offense. I had the first half offensive game plan, and then I had a game plan that I implemented at halftime if I had the lead, and a game plan I implemented at halftime if I didn't have the lead. Obviously, Detroit has no clue how to play when they have the lead. They've dumped I don't know how many games this year where they've had big leads and they lose it in the second half because they just can't keep it up. And it doesn't help that they have somebody that's absolutely, I don't say he's an idiot or anything, but he's crazy. When you have a guy that's insane running as your head coach that go instead of taking the points, if he kicked 2 field goals, he wins the game. But no, he doesn't do that. But that's his nature. That's what he does that got him there. Congratulations. You live by the crazy, you die by the crazy, and you died by the crazy this weekend. Thank you very much.
And Phil, I'm not going to defend him, but I think some of it obviously is his defense is not good.
I know that. But there are people interviewing his defensive coordinator, though.
I don't understand that because Detroit's defense is not that strong. They let up out of all the playoff teams. I think they allowed the most points out of all the playoff teams. So he kind of had to coach aggressively because he was playing games to outscore their opponents, not to beat their opponents. And there's a difference in the two. So I think some of it was fear that the defense was just going to allow all the points. Look, I don't know. I'm not in the mindset. He's an aggressive.
Well, you like the crazy guy, and that's okay. I mean,
yeah.
People, there's an attractiveness to crazy.
Yeah.
But then again, they're crazy.
Listen,
so stay away from the crazy.
All I know is this. He is 1,000,000% rejuvenized and revitalized that entire city.
It's going to be February next week, and we're talking about Detroit. That's never happened in my lifetime. So I give them all the credit in the world. Like one of my favorite players is on that team with Jahmyr Gibbs. So congratulations. They're fantastic. One thing I can say is Detroit is not boring. Love watching their games. I mean, usually during the season, the only game I ever watch anything with Detroit is their Thanksgiving game that we're all subjected to. And it's not by choice either. We turn on the TV and that's the only darn thing on Thanksgiving Day. So that's typically how much Lions football the rest of the country watches. Well, this year, I probably watch 14 Lions games at a minimum. And I liked it. I turn it on. I would turn on a Lions game because they're not boring. They play good football. It's just in the second half, they choke. And I hate using the C word, but yeah, they choke in the second half, and they've done it all season long.
So Campbell's going to be there. Their GM's going to be there. Their director of player personnel is going to be there. Now, the player personnel doesn't really get as much involved with the draft as the other two do, but they're probably going to have a stronger draft again. I was big on their draft this past fall or this past spring. I would expect a stronger draft again. We gotta take assumptions here, and I don't like assuming things on our shows, but we're going to take a heavy assumption that they're going to be in need of at least an offensive coordinator for this year. So as long as they can keep that momentum going with a new offensive coordinator, Detroit's going to be a power player for the next couple of years until things start souring up.
Well, until they have to start paying guys.
Like I said, until they start souring up.
Yeah.
So all right, yeah. We're going to get into the Super Bowl matchup itself next time. So on next Monday, we're going to go heavy into the matchup of San Francisco versus Kansas City. Today was a reaction of the both championship weekend games, but there's other stuff on.
Well, I'm taking San Francisco because it's, for me, it's Journey over Taylor Swift every day.
And stop. Who had 1443 before we mentioned Taylor Swift? So thanks, Phil.
And who would have thought it was going to be me?
I thought it would be me. I'm glad it was you.
Yeah, but I had to put Journey ahead of them.
You know what? While we're talking about it real quick, I want to give her props. She was out in the field celebrating in the cold, in the elements. Her hair was all messed up. She was probably surrounded by security guards, but regardless, she wasn't all foo-fooed up, and she was in true fan mode. Good job. Good job. That's all I have to say about that. All right.
I got nothing to say about that.
If I knew any lyric of any song right now, I would come back at you with a lyric from the song because it would be a perfect time to take the shot.
I don't listen to her music, but that's no surprise. Look at me. Do I look
And
like
the
a
player's
Swiftie?
gonna play.
No.
And the hater's gonna hate. There we go. The haters are gonna hate. All right. There were some more
Start singing Journey.
There were some more
Before my
coaching
speed.
hires this past week as well. So there was 4 coaching hires. Raheem Morris, he is in Atlanta. They're saying this is the perfect home for him. The whole ownership, love affair with or hate affair with the ownership aside, Raheem Morris specifically as a head coach, I like seeing. The more I learn about Atlanta's upper side management, I hope he's not doomed from the start. But I do think this is
the way that's set up. You can't be successful in Atlanta. You can't. It's impossible.
I still think Raheem Morris is a good hire. Maybe not.
I think he's a good hire for anybody.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Because he's a player. From everything everyone's saying, including his ex-players, no one has anything bad to say about him. People just say when he was at Tampa for 3 years, he was just too young, and it was his first failure. That was his starter wife, so to speak. And now he's, he is basically a player's coach. He's a motivator. I heard Jay Gruden come out and say, since he was on the staff with him in multiple times, both in Washington and Tampa. And he said that Raheem Morris reminds me a lot of Mike Tomlin. So when anybody mentions your name in the same sentence as Mike Tomlin, hey, I'm all for it. So as far as him being the coach, congratulations, great. It's a great hire. But Atlanta's broken. If they could resurrect freaking Vince Lombardi and his defensive coordinator can be, I don't know, Nick Saban, and his offensive coordinator can be Joe Gibbs, and it still would fail.
The thing I like that I've heard is when he enters a room, everybody turns their head. He takes command of every room, and he just sounds like a head coach. Yeah. All those little things, that says a lot to me. Just because when you walk into a room and no one notices you, that says a lot as well.
Oh, like when you're the head coach for the Miami Dolphins?
Yeah. Next.
Right.
All right. In 2 years, Dave Canellis has gone from quarterback coach at Seattle to offensive coordinator at Tampa Bay to head coach at Carolina. He's doing.
And we go from one of the worst front offices in the league to the worst front office in the league.
Regardless, look at the picture. Look how young he is. He's doing something right, even if this is just his.
Get you a check, dude. Get your 5-year guaranteed contract and collect on that puppy.
And you know what? Maybe until the next season ends, maybe Carolina's going to turn things around. We'll
you think he makes it 34 games? The last guy only made it 8.
I'll take the over on the last guy.
That's not saying much, though. I mean, come on. I wouldn't put money on how long this guy's lasts at all, period.
Well,
because the owner's an idiot.
Well, what I'm hoping is the owner has taken lots of feedback, and every one of them has said it is a process. It takes time. You stick with it. So hopefully, hopefully he implements that advice. If that's so, I'm rooting for Canales. I never even heard of him until last year when he was with Tampa Bay. So I learned about him for the first time come August and September once I really started seeing plays called.
It doesn't matter.
So
his owner, it just doesn't matter.
Regardless,
his owner's an idiot. If your owner's an idiot, It doesn't matter. You got to get in the head coaching ranks eventually. So take the job, make sure your contract's guaranteed, and you've got a good lawyer. Hone up on your public speaking, because within 2 years you'll be in front of a microphone at a network job.
Hey, there's only 32 of these positions in the world.
Yep. No, I don't blame a guy for taking the job. It's just that don't have a rent. Don't buy. And even though Charlotte's a great place to live, I love the area, don't buy rent.
Brian Callahan, the former offensive coordinator at Cincinnati, was hired as the Tennessee Titans head coach, replacing Mike Vrabel. And what rumor mill says got him the job is how effective he was with Browning at quarterback once Joe Burrow went down, and how competitive they were, and what he did for that program. So Brian Callahan,
he could bring his dad as the offensive line coach?
I don't know. I haven't looked into any of their hires yet.
Because that would be a hell of an offensive line. If they re-sign Henry behind the line like that, ooh, that's kind of scary.
I think Henry's gone, just judging by the way he was on week 18.
Yeah.
And then the big one, Jim Harbaugh basically gave the two-finger Stone Cold Steve Austin salute to the NCAA, left Michigan, and I think this is pretty cool. He's the former quarterback of the San Diego Superchargers, and now he's the head coach of the Chargers. Yes, Frank Wright just failed miserably in Carolina this past year as a former quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. But besides Frank Wright, Phil or Internetverse, has a former quarterback ever become a head coach of same said team and franchise?
I'm sure they have. I think the Raiders incestuously hired a bunch of their quarterbacks. So I think there was one there from them. Like Blanda or somebody. I don't know. Probably a Raiders coach that was Greasy ever a coach for Miami? Nope.
Greasy is now is on the Seattle Seahawks coaching staff. Oh, you're talking about Son Greasy. I'm talking about Son Greasy. You're talking about Dad Greasy.
So Elway, did Elway own the Broncos?
Elway was named president, and then his contract expired once the Walmart family took ownership.
Well, Seattle, they're missing the boat on Jim Zorn.
Anyway, if there's one coach that has had success in everywhere he's gone, from the University of San Diego to Stanford to the 49ers to Michigan and now the Chargers, I hate saying assumptions, but he's going to have success. And listen, the Chargers front office might not be as complete hot mess as some of these other ones that we've been jabbing about, but their front office is not a poster child. This is the Pittsburgh Steelers way of doing things. I still think Harbaugh's going to have not overnight success, but he's going to have sustained success in the NFL a second time around with the Chargers.
They're in big trouble salary cap wise.
Clean it up a year and then go from there.
Right. And it's going to be rough this first year because they're going to have to chop some people. But I think after that, he'll get his guys in there. And I think he's had success everywhere he's been. So, he had Kaepernick in the Super Bowl, for Christ's sakes. And I know everybody thinks that, he's the best quarterback ever to never play, but no. No, not even close.
So there's NFL news for you, and that leaves two franchises remaining, well, maybe 2.5 franchises remaining: the Washington Commanders, the Seattle Seahawks. We figure one of them has been waiting to hire the Detroit Lion OC. We'll see what happens with the other one, and then the rumor mill. And I don't like going deep onto the rumor mill, but I've been hearing it all season. If Kansas City goes to a certain checkpoint, Super Bowl is right here. Andy Reid's looking to retire. So there could be a third opening coming if Andy Reid decides to step down. I don't know if that's true or not. He's got all the hamburgers he could ever afford. He's 65 years old. He's got grandkids. He's done everything. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. So if he gets another Super Bowl victory, he could walk away just fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's an excellent head coach, but he probably has 5 or 6 more years left in him too. So who knows? Just depends upon what he wants to do.
Exactly.
It might be that he goes sit home and without football in his life because this ain't worth living. So he goes coaches again. It's just part of his guy that's been in the business that long. It's part of his blood.
I'm
going to be rooting for Harbaugh to be successful. I really am.
I am
I've
too.
got nothing to get against the guy. Okay. According to the NCAA, he was a cheater. According to me, he wanted to win more than the other guy. And that puts him on the pedestal for me because he's a winner. Well, and that's all that matters. There are winners and there are losers. He's a winner. Other people are losers.
And for those of you who don't know Phil, like I've known Phil, Phil said something, golly, maybe 10, 12 years ago before all of this was a thing. Harbaugh has a way of pissing people off. and yeah. Phil even gave the story the last time that San Francisco was in the Super Bowl and they had some public appearance and Harbaugh intentionally scheduled a practice at the exact same time as said public appearance, probably because he didn't want to go to the public appearance. And so put egg on San Francisco's face and piss them off. I'm sure he knows how to piss off every other Big Ten school because it was the Big Ten that was after Harbaugh more than the NCAA. I mean, God, so he just knows how to piss people off, but
he's good
better
at it.
than pissing people off. He also knows how to win. So yes, I'm rooting for Harbaugh as well.
He knows how to win. He's a winner. So I don't think they went wrong with him. I just look at, Seattle. What do they want? And if they didn't want Ben Johnson, why wait this long?
Yeah, assuming at this point, Ben Johnson's got to be your number one for both Washington and Seattle.
I don't think he's my number one. Just look, if I'm Seattle and Washington are in two different places in the world. Washington doesn't have much talent at all, and they are a long way away from even being competitive. Seattle, they're already competitive, and they're a couple of players away from being great. They just, happen to be in a conference with two pretty damn good teams with the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams and Niners just happen to occupy real estate.
Right, but they can hold their own. So I don't think there's a problem that. I would think, I don't know shit. Oh, man, I just blew it. Swear word.
2806.
Yep, darn it.
Wash your mouth out with soap.
Yeah, I can't make it through a show. But if I was them, I would have been looking at a Belichick or a Vrabel. Somebody that I'm at a solid B, and I want to be an A, and I want the guy that can take me to an A. I don't see that as being Ben Johnson, and I don't see that as being the defensive coordinator for Detroit either, and that his name slips my mind on that.
Aaron
Glenn. And it doesn't. And McDonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, he's another hot coaching contract candidate. So I don't see those three guys that you have been waiting on as a guy to get me from the B level to the A level. I don't see it. But, like a Belichick or a Vrabel, yeah, I can see them taking me to the next level. I can see that happening. So, that's something that I don't understand about Seattle waiting, because it's just those three young guys aren't the guy to take them to the next level. Now, I know why Washington, they had the second worst record in the league. Not much talent. They could go with a young coach and grow together because, quite frankly, no one expects them to win more than 5 games next year. So, they can hold out for a young coach. But you also got that guy from the Texans. He's a young one that can work with a rookie quarterback too. So, I see that there's other candidates out there, but I just don't know why Seattle would want a Ben Johnson. because they could that. But he could be a superstar in the making. Who knows? But he could also take them from a B level down to a D or D minus.
Well, I just hope both teams pull the proverbial trigger this week. Now that everybody's assumed number one prospect is now available for interviews, what are you waiting for at this point? Time to get moving. So there's my take on that.
Yep, get it done.
All right. Also this weekend on Saturday night was the Royal Rumble. And Cody's going to finish his story as he was the Royal Rumble champion for the men's. Bayley wins the Royal Rumble for the women's. Roman Reigns, in the most obvious setup, retained the Fatal Four-Way match to continue his streak as the Universal Championship. Logan Paul retained his championship as the United States champion. During the press conference and post WrestleMania, when he was pointing to him, Cody made it clear that the exact quote was, "If you saw WrestleMania 39, you know my choice. It's Cody versus Roman." It looks like it's going to be Bayley versus Io, but that's not official just yet. And I have my favorite moment of the entire Rumble. We'll get to my favorite moment of the Rumble in a minute. Phil, your overall reaction to the Royal Rumble itself?
Started out great, A match with the Women's Royal Rumble, and it went downhill from there.
I don't think it ever went below a B, though.
No, yeah, it did.
All right, the Roman match, I'm not counting the Roman match.
You have to count it. It happened. I would like to say that match didn't happen. You would like to say that match didn't happen. I'm sure most WWE fans would like to say that match didn't happen, but unfortunately it did. We have to address it. That match sucked.
When they put the match as second, we knew right then and there exactly what was going to happen.
Exactly. And I hate it because those four guys that were in that match are four of my favorite wrestlers. They are incredibly talented. They can do it all in the ring. And man, they laid a turd out there. That match was one big turd. And that's the best I can say about it. That match was a turd.
And furthermore, every single person on the planet is sick of Solo being the reason why Roman wins every single match.
That's on top of the turd.
Yeah, that's such old hat. It's not even. It's
like using toilet paper to wipe up after the turd.
It's why people like me took a 3-month hiatus from wrestling because of storylines like that, acts like that. It just you needed the break.
You had Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight in the ring at the same time, and that's what you did? I mean, that's incomprehensible. I mean, literally, it's just poor, very poor, all the way around.
Bayley didn't go the full distance, but set the time record for the women's Rumble match.
I thought the Women's Royal Rumble was the best match of the night.
It was, mine too. That was my only A of the night.
Yep.
I gave the men's Royal Rumble a B. I gave Logan Paul a C+, even though I think you and Luke both liked the ending.
No. I didn't like the ending, but I gave the match an A, but the ending knocked it down. I'd say an A- because the ending was stupid, but I get it. The ending is setting up a WrestleMania match.
I'm hoping it sets it up at Elimination Chamber. Just be done with that story.
No, I'm okay with it. I mean, I am okay with that. When I look at it in the context, it sets up a WrestleMania match with Logan Paul. Logan Paul, okay, we don't like Logan Paul, but nobody else in WWE likes Logan Paul either. However, he's a hell of a heel. He's tremendous. He's a natural born athlete. He's an incredible heel. And every time he has a match, we're talking about it. And he just does something that we're going to talk about, that we're going to say, wow, look at that. That was incredible. And he does that every match. and Kevin Owens is always good for a good match. So I think that this is a good warm-up match for him. It was a good match. They had to set something up to prolong it to WrestleMania. And that's what I think. And you just use the next 2 months as a build-up for it. So I'm okay. If they do that, I'm okay with this match and the way it ended.
All right. My absolute favorite moment of the Royal Rumble. We had our first time ever in Royal Rumble history a hot tag.
Yep.
Dominic Mysterio had to fight through and make the hot tag to R-Truth. I exploded. The crowd exploded. R-Truth nailed his moment. A+ performance by R-Truth. On top of that,
Ron Killings always has an A+ performance. He's a comedic genius. He really is. I mean, he's in his character. He's fantastic. Awesome.
My favorite moment of the Rumble, by far, and that one's gonna be a tough to beat because the crowd was.
I don't know. Ron's appearance in the Women's Royal Rumble was right up there too.
It was, but for me specifically, the hot tag. The electricity of the crowd.
And I thought he made the night. I thought he made the night, and I thought Pat McAfee coming out and doing the announcing for the Men's Royal Rumble.
And if you heard, and this will be a good transition, and because we're getting short on time, Pat McAfee announced today that he had 0% prior knowledge that he was entrance number 23 into the Royal Rumble. He was awesome. Brock Lesnar's filler.
That is awesome. That is just complete all. And his act when he got in there was awesome. I mean, that was incredible. I mean, it really was. Those parts I liked. We all knew it was going to come down to CM Punk and Cody Rhodes.
I had Gunther.
Well, I know you had Gunther, but the rest of the world, the rest of the fans had Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. Choose which one. I chose CM Punk. Supposedly he's injured now, but
yeah, I was going to get to that.
Yeah,
but I was 3-1 on picks. Gunther was my one miss.
But I wish they would have had kind of surprise winner. But they had to go this direction. They had to go this way. So I get it.
I'm glad they're fast forwarding and doing the storyline because there's been a lot of people saying that Hunter wants to play the extremely long game and do Rock Roman at this Mania and Cody and Roman at next Mania. I'm so glad it's not WrestleMania 41. Let's do it now in Philadelphia. Okay, other tidbits real fast because we're getting short on time. Yes, rumor has it a torn pectoral out. CM Punk out 4 to 6 months. He's got that going on. And then the big breaking news from last week as well. Vince McMahon, sex trafficking because he didn't pay up on his debts, shall we say.
Allegedly.
But when you save all the screenshots, that's going to get you in trouble because.
And they captured text messages and stuff. So all of this is alleged. We don't know if it's true or not. Let's play it safe here.
This is also why Shane McMahon and him do not have a good relationship because Shane would try to stop Dad in the middle of board meetings from being Dad and stop Dad from doing this stuff behind the scenes. And that's why Shane was never in good standings with WWE. So it's funny how that all comes full circle. But in the mix as well, the person on the receiving end of this was Brock Lesnar, and now he's out. So it was supposed to be Brock and Gunther at Mania. That's no longer going to happen. CM Punk was supposed to be rumored for either Seth Rollins or Stone Cold. That doesn't sound like that's going to happen. And then Seth Rollins as well is at least banged up, if not injured, and he needs some time to recover. So Triple H is earning his paycheck now with how to rewrite scripts that have been in the works for months, and he's pretty much having to do it on the fly. So you got Vince McMahon situation, you got the injury situation. Phil, what do you want to start with?
You can't spell class with McMahon. No, it didn't work. But they've got to take the title off of Seth Rollins. I mean, they have to, and the perfect choice is Damian Priest. I mean, we know it. Damian Priest needs to cash in. Knee chop. I don't care what he needs to do to take Seth down. Let Seth properly recover and come back for a challenge. Let Seth win Money in the Bank this summer when he comes back, and then cash in at SummerSlam. That's what I say they should have happen. But this title needs to go to Damian Priest. It really does. And I don't think there's any other option. It's got to go to It's got to go to Damian Priest.
See, I could see Gunther winning Elimination
You let
Chamber.
Gunther take it. You let Gunther take it from Damian Priest.
I agree, but I don't know why they're holding on to Damian Priest so long. They could have pulled this trigger months ago.
He's an excellent character.
He is, but it's time for him to now cash in.
Yes, and it's time for him to win. I'm not talking about not a Baron Corbin cash in.
Right. Or a John Cena cash in.
Yeah. So it's time to elevate Damian Priest to World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest.
I just assume since they're prolonging it, they don't know if they really want to. And that's my fear.
Why?
I don't know.
He's a great character. Then you've got so many baby faces that
I'm not arguing with you.
It makes no sense. There's so many storylines. Seth Rollins has already wrestled everybody twice. All right, we're done. Seth needs to take some vacation, get his knee done. He can have a get well match later on, but just take him out of the scene for 6 months.
And the initial thoughts was when Seth won this tournament to start the championship to begin with, that he was going to be just the initial champion only, and then within like 2 months, he was going to lose to the Mr. Money in the Bank or at SummerSlam to someone else, and neither one of those ever came true. Good for Seth Rollins for proving that, hey, I can still keep going forever, but it just, I don't know. So there's.
I like Seth Rollins. I'm a Seth Rollins fan.
I'm a huge Seth Rollins fan.
He's reinvented himself about every 2 years. He reinvents his character, and it works. So I like Seth Rollins. I mean, I even like the Messiah, Seth Rollins. So he's a great character, but we've had him now for 5 years now since he came back from his knee. It's time. It's time. Take some time off, get that knee well, and come back with a different character when he comes back.
And speaking of it's time, two of my all-time favorites look like it's time for them to go bye-bye. I don't want it to happen, but it might be the best thing for them both. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus.
Say it ain't so.
I hope it's not so, but I'm pretty sure at least Drew's contract is done on WrestleMania night, and I think Sheamus's as well. And
yeah, that's a sad state of affairs. That's a moment of
Hunter, if you watched the press conference, Hunter admitted straight up, you're never going to keep everybody happy. Well, I guess it's Drew and Sheamus's turn on rotation not to be happy. So
Sheamus is a company guy.
He is.
I would think that he would come in and do whatever he needed to do.
I mean,
Drew's the guy that you don't think that he's going to be able to come in and keep things going.
All I can hope for is with Drew is because of Brock's situation and because of injuries, this elevates Drew McIntyre's WrestleMania storyline, and hopefully he comes out on top at WrestleMania. That's my only hope.
Well, we all know that WWE needs heels, and I think the Drew McIntyre heel is definitely a good character. But it just depends upon if he wants to be a character guy or if he wants to be the guy with the belt hanging around his waist. And in the company, there can only be two guys like that. And he's not one of them right now, and I don't know if that can work.
Any final thoughts, Phil?
For my Georgia Tech fans, since I'm not doing a video about the release of the Georgia Tech schedule, It's the top 5 most difficult schedule in college football. I say bring it. I'm not going to whine about it. I'm not going to complain about it. I love the fact that we're opening the season against FSU in Ireland, and it'll keep the kids' concentration stuck to what it needs to be stuck at, football. So they've got a big opponent when they open up the season. What I'm worried about with the schedule actually is their bye weeks. Our bye weeks are in October and November. We've got 3 bye weeks in a 4-week stretch, and that kind of sucks. Other than that, bring it. First game's a nightmare game. Last game's a nightmare game. All of them in between are a bunch of pretty good teams in the ACC, and we'll take them 1 week at a time, and we want our opponents to say, oh, hell, we're going to face Georgia Tech.
Road to WrestleMania begins tonight, actually in 14 minutes. The Super Bowl is now 7 days away. Coaches are being hired. The recruiting period has finally ended. The official rankings have been finalized. Even though the sport and some of the sports are winding down, some of the back end storylines are starting to build up. It's just a great time, folks. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're following us. Check out our website, coachandcrewshow.com. Give us comments and feedbacks, and we'll get your topics covered as well. Other than that, every Monday night, 7 o'clock on YouTube, we are live. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.